On this episode of Still Loading...
Hey, we're out of goop and I'm feeling pooped.
Yeah, I'm feeling beat, so we better retreat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today on the show, it is the finale of Season 2 of our Captain N series. And of course, with me to dissect all of this Captain N goodness, all of this nudness. No, that's not a word. I was trying to think of some other way to add end into thing, but then nudness sounds like nudes too. So, actually, you know what? There is some... There's some tangential connection to this episode with nudes. We'll get into that. With me, of course, to discuss all of this Captain N sanity is my co-host with the Mo-host, Dexter Morrill. Dexter, how are you doing today?
I'm back again. I'm sending you nudes right now.
This is nudes to me. What a dumb. We're already on fire. Whether it's on fire in a good way or it's a tire fire, a dumpster fire, we leave it up to you, gentle listeners, to figure out. We're here to break down Captain N Season 2, Episode 13, Germ Wars, which came out initially on December 1st, 1990, written by, as far as I can tell, first-timers to the show, Greg Klein and Ted Albin. I don't believe I saw them anywhere else in the thing, so as far as I can tell, yeah. And I'm looking at the Season 3 stuff. Yeah, this is their only writing credit on the entire series, and you can kind of tell, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that in like the tone of this episode is very different from everything I've seen in Season 1 or 2. But Dexter, what are your preliminary thoughts? What's something that stuck out to you about this episode?
Yeah, I was going to say, these poor guys, I don't know if they knew what show they were writing for when they showed up for this. Germ Wars, great title. Not a spoof of Star Wars, which is what I was expecting when I read that name. But initial thoughts here. Definitely one for the sound effects people out there. If you're into sound effects and ADR and what's the when you listen to things close up to the microphone?
ASMR.
ASMR. There we go. Those are the letters I was looking for. If you're into that, you'll either really like this episode or it will disturb you.
I'm definitely on the latter half of that. This episode disturbed the shit out of me. My initial observations from this is there are so many, I guess without going too quickly into the story, the main premise of this episode, listeners, is that Kevin gets sick and he with a video virus. We'll go into that in a moment. With a video virus, and the N team has to shrink down in order to help him fight the virus because he has no immunity to it. That's the general premise of it. So there's a lot of internal shots, hence the nude jokes I mentioned before, because it's all internal shots of Kevin. But almost everything in this episode, whether it is like the virus that you're fighting, whether it's what's going on inside of Kevin's body, or just or any of those things, there is a bizarre amount of either phallic or anus related things, and it's
I have that in my notes as well. Like we have our butthole quota for for each episode.
Oh man, this one exceeded it. It made up for any lost ground in previous episodes. There's so many buttholes. It's just things that we, as grown adult men, never thought we would ever say. We've exceeded our butthole quota.
Yes, Still Loading podcast, Captain N, so many buttholes.
We've exceeded our butthole quota, Captain. Oh my god, and our buttload quota. But yeah, so this episode, I guess let's dive right into it. No pun intended with a butthole. We don't need to dive into a butthole. Anyway, enough of this talk. We're gonna get stuck on this. The episode begins with Kevin bringing back a mysterious rock from Congo land, and I don't know why he was. This episode really suffers from the whole like, why is there any of this happening? Like 90% of the episodes begin with like, here's what Mother Brain is doing, trying to take over Videoland. So like, you don't need to understand necessarily the logic as to what she's doing, because sometimes the what still makes no sense, but you almost always at least understand why. You know, why does Mother Brain want this, or why is the end team doing this? It's usually to defend themselves from Mother Brain. In this, I have no idea why Kevin decided to randomly go to Congo Land and bring back some type of meteorite.
Yeah, where they're usually doing an extreme sport, and this time they're like,
yes,
geology,
the most extremist of sciences.
And Kevin says, talk about ancient history. And I didn't understand that line, because usually it's supposed to be, like related, but it literally, like, I didn't get it, because usually, you say talk about a horse of a different color, and it's literally like a different color horse. Like,
yeah,
it was weird how it was like, no, that's literally ancient history, Kevin. I don't understand the relation here.
There's a couple jokes like that in this episode where they say something like it's meant to be a joke, but it's not a joke. They have the inflection of a joke, but no actual joke in the slightest in the actual what's written or the dialogue. He does get this rock though. Game Boy scans it and determines that it's 99% organic matter, 1% something else, unknown origin. And that, I guess the 1% of the unknown origin is supposed to be the video virus that Kevin gets. But even then, I'm like, well, if it's a virus, wouldn't it be organic as well? Like, yeah. I'm very confused by that. Unless this episode kind of peels open a scab that we didn't know we had. B, we definitely didn't want it peeled open, in the sense that now they kind of speculate that Kevin is the only human in Videoland. Like Lana isn't a human and Simon isn't a human. They're all like video people, I guess, which I guess it makes sense, but it seems weird. They treat them as humans in almost every other, especially in the Mega Man episode, the Happy Birthday Mega Man, where he wants to be human like Lana and Kevin and Simon, but now all of a sudden no one else is human except for Kevin. Why?
Yeah, and also immediately after that, after he's like, unknown substance, but everything else is organic, and then Kevin blows a bubble with his bubble gum, which we'll come back to that, and Game Boy tries to mimic it, and he's like, unknown substance also, like, he doesn't understand chewing gum. I'm like, how accurate, like, how smart are you, Game Boy? Like, you're able to scan this weird rock and understand 99% of it, but you don't know what chewing gum is.
And you're able to power the entirety of the Palace of Power for 24 hours when you're supercharged, but you don't know what gum is. Right. They also, what is it? There's a lot of callbacks in this opening scene. There's the gum. There also, what's going to be referenced later on is the mirror that Kevin's holding, which is supposed to be a magnifying glass, but it appears as a mirror when he holds it up, and then it's used as a mirror later on. So the whole time I'm just confused by what this thing is supposed to be. And Simon walks in and starts making fun of Kevin, and they're like, what a bunch of rockheads, or I forget the exact line that he says, and Kevin goes like, oh, it takes one to know one, or something. Those are actually not the lines, but that's kind of the vibe they're getting. It's just this little bit of banter back and forth, a little bit of trolling each other slightly. Simon then spins the rock like it's a basketball, and it magically starts to hover and floats over to Kevin, and then all of a sudden a big light explodes out of it, and when it cuts back to Kevin, he's hunched over, and everyone's like, oh my God, Kevin, are you okay? And he gets up and he has scan lines on his face. And that's how you know he has a video virus.
Yeah, and then Simon has a weird joke, like he's like, "Oh, I'm fine. I swallowed my chewing gum." And Simon's like, "Did the chewing gum have stripes?" Or so, like it was
Yeah.
just like, what? I don't understand.
So much of this episode is just things said as a joke that are not actually a joke. That's really what it boils down to. There's just so many moments of it that are said as a joke and are
I
not
also kept
actually a joke.
expecting this bubble gum to play a much bigger role than it does in this episode.
Yeah. It actually is more of a nuisance in this episode than anything else. I actually was frustrated by the bubblegum in this episode just because it was like, come on, like I understand you get the like bubblegum sticky, but there's Simon gets stuck in it later on, and it's more obnoxious. Like it's not funny. It's not even creating good tension. It's more just like, I know you're going to get out of this. This is just a contrived thing. It's not even anything
Right.
clever.
And it does end up helping them in a super gross way, but we'll get to that.
I didn't even notice. I know what you're talking about, but I didn't notice how exactly it became gross until my second watch through, literally just moments ago. Kevin gets diagnosed with a video virus by Dr. Light, and they say, "Oh," and he's like, "Oh, you're fine, your baby. It's not. It's similar to the what does he said? The human cold or the
The human
common
cold bug," or so, he says it in a weird way, though.
Yeah, the human cold bug. I think is something like that.
Yeah,
the common cold bug. But then you see inside of Kevin, you see then you see an inside view of Kevin, like in his immune system, in his bowels. I'm not quite sure. And there's like this weird light electronic version, like video version of it, maybe.
It's like a Tron version of of Kevin. He's colored completely yellow, like gold or something.
Mm-hmm. And he's being chased by the video virus, which I was so confused by this video virus. So first off, the ship thing that he flies around in, there's a moment when Kevin does get caught by this thing later on. Like the immune system, the Tron version of Kevin does get caught by this thing. And I swear to God, it looks like he just got eaten up by a vagina. Like, but no vagina I've ever seen. It's just the.
It reminds me a lot of Queen Slug for a Butt from Earthworm Jim. Like it's got that very like it's got a very Earthworm Jim style design to me, where it's just got lots of like vaguely organic, but it doesn't look like anything recognizable, like all pieced together in this weird vessel.
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much what this virus is, and there's a name to this virus, this vaguely organic virus, as which I think is a good description, Dex. He's called Viroid. Now I had to look that up because when I'm watching it, I swear, did you hear the same thing I did? I thought they said thyroid.
Yeah. Not the first time I heard Viroid the first time, but the next like couple of times they said it, like, I was like, did they just say thyroid? No, I heard thyroid a couple of times when they were saying it as well.
Well, I love how like he has this really evil eyes, like, I am the virus who's coming to kill you. I am, and I could have sworn he's just like thyroid, like thyroid.
I could not get to the bottom of it. I just did a little bit of research, but I think that's friend of the show Gary Chalk, King Hippo himself, doing that voice.
Really?
When I was listening to it, the delivery sounded a lot like Gary Chalk, and I was hoping that I was right, but I couldn't find any specific credit for Viroid.
You couldn't find a credit for thyroid. His lackey though is a character named Cell, no relation to the DBZ character.
I'm just saying, Captain N did it first.
I mean, well, DBZ came out before this. Dragon Ball came out before.
Dragon Ball did, but the character Cell didn't come out until after.
But wasn't the manga when did the manga for DBZ run?
Dragon Ball came out around when I was born on the manga, and then a few years later the anime started. But I would say I'd have to look at the manga. I want to say like the manga for DBZ was in the early 90s. So I think this would have predated it a little bit.
Dragon Ball ran from according to Wikipedia, the original run of Dragon Ball manga ran from 1984 to 1995. The original anime series, though, for DBZ started in 89. But Cell wouldn't have been a character yet.
Yeah, he was like season 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, it's possible. It's possible, Dex. It is possible that our beloved Captain N, Kira Toriyama, the genius that he is like, oh man, that Captain N, I got an idea.
I I bet he did. I also have to derail us because I need you to go to the frame at 2 minutes and 35 seconds.
Okay.
Because I paused and laughed out loud when they're all gathered around Kevin in his bed while he's sick. They have Mega Man in a freeze frame, like just sitting, like he's supposed to be on the side of the shot, but it is the most like almost stick figure-esque drawing of Mega Man ever. Just with this,
I see what you're saying. He has like a deer in headlights look, like he's been hypnotized.
Yes, I could not stop laughing when that popped up. Like just this weird, like almost, yeah, like this creepy emoji face going on. It was almost like they're like, there's too much empty space. Where's Mega Man?
Or Mega Man in there.
So, sir, I'm not the artist. I don't care. Put Mega Man in there.
It's almost like because they needed Mega Man in there because Simon's elbow is in the top right corner of the shot, so they needed something to balance out the rule of thirds.
Yeah, he's not even like the right size, I don't think either.
No.
It's just this derpy, like, I love it.
It's pretty fantastic. So yeah, Kevin is running or getting attacked by Viroid, and his lackey Cell. Cell's voice, though, I don't know the real life actor, but they definitely are referencing something that you've seen in like Looney Tunes a whole bunch. I think it's no, God, it's that. Yes, Master. Yes, I aim to please. Not quite like Frankenstein's assistant type of thing, Igor, but like I keep wanting to say Gossamer, but that's not it.
No,
Gossamer is
Gossamer was
the red monster from
Yes.
From Looney Tunes.
I
You know
will
who
tell
I'm
you what
talking
that-
about, though, right? He's
Yes,
kind of like got
his
sunken in eyes.
name is, I'm looking up his IMDb because he's in Casablanca. Peter Lorre is the actor's
That's
name.
it. Thank you. It's a Peter Lorre impression. That's what I could not. It's one of those things where it's like no one's going to recognize that reference in Captain N. Like Looney Tunes, it's unsurprising because obviously it was all made around the time that those cartoons were made around the time he was contemporary, and in this, it's just kind of like why like this dude's voice has outlived, or the impressions of Peter Lorre's voice has outlived like anything that he's done. And I'm not even saying that to be mean. I'm sure like Casablanca is huge.
No, there's some other characters, or there's some other actors like that. Like I can't think of the actor's name. That's what's going to happen.
The
King Candy,
like James Cagney, maybe.
James Cagney. I was thinking of King Candy, from Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, Ed Wynn.
Ed Wynn, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? Yeah, that.
Yeah.
That voice. Like people are going to be like, "Oh, that's the King Candy impersonation." They're not going to realize that was Ed Wynn. Same thing with Peter Lorre. Like people are going to forget that that's an impersonation. And Brain from Pinky and the Brain was an Orson Welles impersonation.
Yes, you're right. Such a good, like Maurice LaMarche, man. What a fantastic voice actor too.
Definitely.
You know.
Yeah.
I love Maurice LaMarche. Anyway, so we move on. Kevin is getting attacked by Viroid and his vagina ship, or whatever you want to call it.
And it has squishing, farting footsteps, even though it floats. It's like, and that's why I was saying, like, this where the sound effects are out of control. It's way louder than the music. You just have these weird sound effects of being chased.
It's super uncomfortable. There's so much about this episode that is just uncomfortable. And he eventually, though, what does happen is he does get captured. The video version, the immune system version of Kevin does get captured. And then so they decide that there's only one way they can help, because they send out an SOS signal, like, so we got to help Kevin. There's got to be a way to save him, guys. We got to figure this out. Like, how can we rescue our beloved Captain N? And they put out a distress call to all the other realms of Videoland. Like, if anyone knows how to do this, please save our Captain N. And Kid Icarus, they eventually decide that while they're waiting for a response, like, let's see if they can they can use Kid Icarus's shrinking arrow to shrink everyone down to the size, just to be small enough in order to fit into Kevin. I will say, though, and I don't understand why, like, what this point is. There's a moment where Kid Icarus, he first whips out an arrow with a giant, like, boxing glove on it.
Yeah,
This
I
is
was
around,
going to
like,
ask if you saw that.
yeah, I don't understand what he's doing, because what happens is he fires it, and you can, if for listeners, if you want to see what, like, a specific frame that it's at, or a specific timestamp, 6 minutes and 56 seconds is where you first see it, or maybe 55, depending. Yeah, 56 is where it first appears. Though I am watching the animation of him pulling it out of his, like, quiver. I'm literally cycling through frame by frame. There is one frame where his arm is bent back. It looks borderline broken, but his arm is bent back to grab the arrow. The next frame is he all of a sudden he has it completely out. Like, it's like half in, like, it's fading in between two different animation cells. And then the next frame after that, it's completely out. Like, there's no, like, animation of him pulling it out in between. Then it's literally just in one frame it's in one frame it's out.
And I understood the joke, and I laughed because I was like, this is ridiculous. It's right after they're told by Dr. Wright, not Dr. Light, Dr. Wright, that the virus has kidnapped, is, like, taking over and is in Kevin's heart. And you see, before he shoots the arrow, he gets all, like, tense and frustrated, and he's like, no, like, he feels helpless, and he shoots, I wrote it down in my notes, he shoots a frustration arrow, because it's just a fist that comes out and pounds the ground, like, like someone would do.
What
like,
it actually pounds. I thought it was, like, pounding Kevin's chest, maybe, like, wake up, damn it.
Well, that would make more sense than it just pounds the ground, like, like a person would normally do, like, fall to their knees and, like, no. And that's what this arrow does. Like, it just shoots to the ground. It, like, curves into the ground, like, and starts beating the ground. Like, you see someone that's, like, helpless, in a overly dramatic movie kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his frustration arrow. I like that.
The frustration. It's honestly, Kid Icarus having an arrow for, like, any situation, whether it's him feeling frustrated or they need to shrink down, is kind of wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. If that's the case, there's a whole episode where he's dedicated to the fact that he wishes he wasn't small anymore. He probably had, like, an enlarging arrow.
Yeah, that's true. Or at least just make everyone else small, and he could be big. But yeah, when I saw the title for this, Germ Wars, I figured it was going to be this kind of spoof, because I feel like in the 90s, every show, at least animated show, had shrinking down into someone that's sick to help them. And I did look it up because I was like, I know, obviously I think it's like Fantastic Journey was the first movie to do it, like old school movie. But Inner Space came out in 1987 with Martin Short and Dennis Quaid and other celebrities. And I was like, that must have been kind of what spurred all of the spoofs of the late 80s, early 90s, was Inner Space, that coming out.
They also, the Fantastic Voyage is also an influence on it.
That's what it's called. I said the wrong word there. Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah, and so the three things, according to Wikipedia, that game elements is from Fazanadu, which we haven't gotten to yet. It's very lightly uses those elements, but the reason I bring that up is because in the same line it says also inspired by Fantastic Voyage and Inner Space. Dr. Wright, because it's not Dr. Light, Dr. Wright gives them a communicator so that way after they shrink down, they can be able to communicate with him. And then begins like a bizarre series of like, they first go into Kevin through his ear. They're bouncing around inside of him with, like this blue ball. The ball breaks open and Simon whips certain things. It's like this nondescript, like, it almost looks like they're grabbing onto hair follicles because everything else is just nothing. It's all black behind them. And I almost wonder if it's like to save on money, there's a lot less to draw there. That would make sense. But I don't know. It's still very odd to me. There's nothing. They get into Kevin's ear. They talk about how they have to get past the eardrum, and then they finally get in. It's just like random veins and shit and nerves.
Yes. Yeah, this is the part in my notes where I put, every episode has a butthole, but this is ridiculous.
Well, and speaking of buttholes, that's what they fall into. No, it's meant to fall into Kevin's stomach, but the visual choice, like the thing that they decided to animate, kind of looks like a butthole. And then when they fall out on the other side, it also looks like a butthole. So as what one butthole takes away, the other butthole gives.
That's what's going on the t-shirt.
So yes, they fall into the stomach butthole, and they fall on, like, I'm very confused by the contents of Kevin's stomach or what they chose to animate. The first half is the gum that Kevin swallowed, and Simon, of course, gets stuck on it. Simon, once again, the glorious tradition of Simon getting sticky stuff on his face.
Yep.
Throughout the entirety of this show. Sorry, and just because I am following, I have the episode up in front of me as we're going through it, just so I don't miss anything. Viroid's subordinate Cell. I mentioned at the beginning of this episode about all the different, like, weird, uncomfortable body part things, and his nose looks like a dick, just a straight up penis. He's got penis nose.
Absolutely.
And the reason I even noticed
anything like the Dragon Ball Z Cell. Let's make that clear.
No, he does not. Thank God. Thank God Akira Toriyama was like, well, I like the name, but everything else, I'm not quite sure. Captain N will only take me so far. But they you see Viroid, and he's spying on. He sees the N team is in Kevin's stomach. Kevin had mentioned earlier, like, I'm the leader of the N team, and you're no match for us, and blah blah blah. So Viroid finally sees this and goes, "Oh, this is the N team. This is the N team," or whatever his voice is. Very evil and maniacal. And he's like, what kind of binoculars is this dude? It's not binoculars, it's trinoculars. Yeah. There's these weird 3-pronged eye things. Now, Viroid does have 3 eyes, but what it makes no sense about this is that 2 of his eyepieces are just staring at each other, while one is looking straight ahead. I'm so confused by this. Dexter, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the intent there is that, like, they're pointing at something else that we're not seeing, and that's what's looking out. But yeah, that's weird that they're pointed all, like, inward. I don't know how that would work.
I don't get it. But I also think it was kind of funny that, like, there's like a metal piece in between the 2 of them or some type of thing, because you can see him holding onto the handle. Yes, it looks like a mustache, exactly. Because you can see him holding onto, like, the handle of, like, this. It's almost like a periscope, sort of, but you don't really know what he's looking at. It cuts back to the N team, though. They're in Kevin, and they're trying to figure out, like, they need to get up to the heart. Dr. Wright mentioned beforehand that is where the virus is located, so they have to get up to the heart, and they're frustrated because they missed it. They came in through the ear and they missed everything. Did you notice? So Lana brings out a map so that way they can find their way back to the heart. Did you notice what the map is titled?
No, just
10 minutes, 30 seconds. It just says Map O Kevin.
Like O apostrophe, or is it like hyphenated?
A Map O Kevin.
At 10:30, you said?
Yep, 10 minutes, 30 seconds. I don't know why, but that made me laugh a lot harder than I should have, just because like I use that not map of something, but I'll use that expression where it's like the old I forget, what is it? I'll use that expression in like random jokes and stuff like that. Instead of a bunch of rocks,
Yeah.
a bunch of rocks, a bunch of rocks over there, or something like. That's not
Yes.
exactly. That's not very funny actually. But I swear to you, listeners, I use it in funny moments. I swear to God. So when
It
I
even
read
has
it
little
here, I
cardinal
was
directions underneath it too. I don't know
yeah,
if you saw that,
like
like
you
little
need to
north
know,
south.
like that's going to give you any help whatsoever.
In a 3-dimensional space. Yeah.
This is a cardinal direction where it can only tell you really between up and down and one direction of left and right. The z-axis does not exist. It is, oh my god, it's so I that made me chuckle so much though. Map O Kevin. I feel like that should be a t-shirt.
I like it.
Right? Oh my god, dude, that actually would be really funny to do.
Map O Videoland.
Map O Kevin, and then you have like on the front, and it's just that diagram you see there of Kevin in like a blue silhouette of Kevin with like his organs, and then the back says Captain N.
People would be so confused.
I would love it. I would love to see someone. I don't know. I need that to kind of exist in my life. Uh, so Simon's still stuck in the gum. Kid Icarus is trying to help him. They are able to get out, and
Did you mention that Cell was pouring stomach acid in?
That is actually the very next scene. Yes. So
okay.
the Viroid is like, oh, we need to get them out of there. We need to try to kill them. So, well, it doesn't say kill. We need to get rid of them. And they pour stomach acid into Kevin's stomach. Which, why they just have a canister of it? Like, why Viroid just has a canister? It's labeled stomach acid. Yeah. Did they like scoop it up on the way up there? Did they like, oh, we can use this later?
Yeah, it's possible. I'm lucky that they didn't get like hydrochloric acid. Like,
well, isn't stomach acid hydrochloric acid?
I think there's all kinds of stuff in stomach acid. Like, that, I think it's even stronger, isn't it? Something I don't know.
I could have sworn stomach acid is just hydrochloric, but I don't. You know what? No. It's been a long time.
All right, then we get to biologists out there. You can let us know.
But I actually just double checked. It is hydrochloric acid. So all you people screaming into your earbuds, you don't have to worry about it. But what I do want to say though is, why does he have that? And it is a little uncomfortable coming out of the top where the stomach is, because once again, as we have stated before, it looks like a butthole. And so you just see this green acid spewing from this like stomach butthole. But then we get to, so the N team has to escape. And the other thing that's in Kevin's stomach that just confuses me, it looks just like a bunch of sugar cubes.
Yeah, I think that I'm overthinking this more than the show did. But I started wondering, like, if he's been eating food and stuff in Videoland, like, what if it's all pixels? Like,
that just, like, that would be awesome, actually.
And that's whenever he eats the food, it just turns into those like voxels down in his stomach.
Honestly, I would be kind of here for that decision if they decided to do something like that, Yeah.
Let's make it canon right here.
So then, Dexter, we get to probably the grossest scene in the episode. We've despite all this talk of buttholes and phallic noses and vagina vehicles, as they're climbing up the sugar cube mountain in Kevin's stomach to escape the stomach acid, Simon, for some reason, gets gum on his foot again, or maybe leftover gum, and they're able to, he's stretching it out really far, and then Kid Icarus shoots it, so it snaps, and he flies forward, like it launches him up, and Mega Man catches him, and he's like, but that gives me an idea. And Dexter, I want to throw it over to you. What does Mega Man do?
Mega Man has the bright idea as a living boy to take
with an immune system now.
With an immune system to take the gum that Kevin was chewing and swallowed and was on Simon's feet, which has also been walking around outside and inside Kevin's body, and takes that gum, puts it in his mouth, chews it up, and blows a bubble, which somehow is lighter than air, and they float on the bubble.
And is able to hold all of them as it
I
floats up. Like, it
question
just
that, because like if he's still a robot, okay, maybe he's got like helium in his body and he's able to like blow it into the bubble gum, but I seriously doubt that. And we just defy physics, and not only can lift Mega Man, but lifts the entire N team out of the stomach with this big bubblegum bubble. Ugh.
well, maybe air is lighter and less dense than whatever type of gas is inside of Kevin's stomach.
Oh snap!
What if we're going down this science rabbit hole that I definitely know a lot about?
Did I mention? I'm a chemist.
But they use this bubble to escape, and Viroid is, which, by the way, I don't think we've really discussed what Viroid looks like when he's not in his ship or behind his trinoculars or anything like that. What a grotesque design. It's I can't even describe it. It's like, so his face is in the shape of a diamond, like a flesh colored diamond. He has three eyes, one at the top middle, one at the bottom left, and one at the bottom right, in the kind of in the form of a triangle, but it's still obviously all within this flesh diamond. His mouth is like is not an upside. His mouth is like, I can't tell. It almost looks like his mouth is bigger. It almost looks like It almost looks like he has one lip, and it's in the middle of his mouth.
Yes, because
His
like
mouth.
he's got two mouths.
It's almost like almost like he has two mouths, and I don't. But now watching him speak, he only has one mouth, but the bottom thing just might be like facial hair or something like
Or
that.
the same
But it's
color
in the
as the
same
inside of
color.
his mouth.
It's the same color. Yeah.
I can describe it to some of our listeners. The way his mouth moves is like the Martians from Sesame Street. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
the yip 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 yip. So if you've got small children like we do that still probably watch Sesame Street, the Martians, how they talk, that's kind of what Viroid's mouth is like. It's like this vertical maw that flaps open from
This
the bottom.
vertical maw.
There's
I
your
like that
SAT word
description.
for the week, everyone.
So the N team gets, makes it, but the virus Viroid decides to try to extract more of Kevin's life force from him somehow. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah,
Like, why would you want to
turning
kill your
blue.
host?
Yeah,
You
he's
know?
like, they've been shooting him, and I thought they were like freezing him because like he's slowly turning like a pale blue color instead of being
Yep.
gold. And I guess that's his life force. I have no idea what the logic is here, but it's all the way up to like the only thing gold on him now is his head.
Yep, and that's the last little bit of life force, I guess. Like you said, Dex, it looks like he's being frozen, but it's not. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. They don't. I mean, I feel like that's, I'm realizing it. I feel like, if I were ever to get another shirt, it might just be, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That would just be my catchphrase for the Captain N series. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I'm kind of here for it. So, while that's all happening, the N team, in the midst of their escape of the stomach acid, do lose the communicator that Dr. Wright gave them. Dr. Light, gave them, and so he can't reach them. But that's, of course, when King Melphis from Faxanadu calls in and says, we have this magical elixir that we can give you, but in order for you to take it, you need to come find it because it was hidden by those mean dwarves that, if you remember from a previous episode this season, there's the elves and the dwarves thing is a whole thing. And even though they kind of both sides end up being good, so I don't quite understand why they're deciding to rehash this racist civil war between elves and dwarves, but whatever.
Yeah, it's a really loaded callback. Like, you really got to kind of hope people were there for that episode.
And I mean, of course they were. Why wouldn't they be? Captain N was must-see entertainment for sure.
That's true. I'm like, if this was some kid's first episode, I can only imagine if they're like, why is a blue Elvis here?
Well, oh, Melphis. I do think another weird moment in this scene, though, is like it's around 13 minutes and 44 seconds. It's supposed to be a video call, but there's an angle that it clearly looks like they're just speaking in like face to face. 13 minutes and 44 seconds into the episode, you can see it where it's like Duke and Game Boy are speaking right next to King Melphis, but they're not supposed to be right next to him. You know, they're supposed to be like far away or something like that.
Oh, no, I think what happened was when they went inside of Kevin, there was like a line. I just thought it was a throwaway line, but they're like, because Duke is whining about, because he's sad that Kevin is sick. And they're like, oh, Duke, Game Boy, you two stay here and protect Kevin while we're on the inside.
That's on the end side.
Oh, there we go. On the Captain N side. And since they're the only ones that aren't inside when they get the call, they are sent to Faxanadu. So I think they are there. I think they are there. I think they were told like, okay, you need to go get the elixir. So I think they're actually
really
there.
Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. It's not well broadcast at all.
No. Also, I think I have to kind of let this run in the background. This whole time we didn't mention Game Boy has been the monitor for Kevin while he's sick. Like the map Kevin is on Game Boy's screen, like showing how sick he's been. And I think at some point while they're in Faxanadu doing the thing, trying to get the elixir, I want to say they cut back to the monitor, which should be Game Boy in the hospital, but he's in Faxanadu trying to get the elixir. So I'm not sure who's monitoring or how they're monitoring Kevin when he's supposed to be in Faxanadu helping Duke get the elixir.
Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even think about. It literally didn't even cross my mind that like Game Boy is there to like basically be his life support.
Yeah, like beep, beep, beep. Yeah, it's supposed to be Game Boy, but he's also here, Faxanadu.
So Doctor writes pretty much, I hope you're still alive. I hope you're okay. I don't have a computer anymore to tell me.
He's still breathing, I guess. I don't know. I'm a video doctor.
I'm a video doctor.
I build robots. I don't know why they think I know anything about health.
So yes, Game Boy and Duke. Sorry, that got me. I don't know why they think I know anything about health. But I do know the difference between a video virus and the common cold, apparently.
Yeah.
So Duke and Game Boy are fighting some enemies in Faxanadu. Some pretty cool designs too. I don't know how close they are to anything in the game, but like, there's like these spiky little like 4-legged things that come and attack. There's like this big kind of like yellowish dragon type of thing. I'm not quite sure.
They're about as accurate as some of the previous stuff we've seen. Like they are definitely references, but they're also not. they're also their own Captain N style.
I'm confused how they defeat though. There's like this like pink. It's almost like this yellow monster wearing a pink jumpsuit, but it's like skin tight.
Xenomorph.
Yeah, it's got like a kangaroo tail. And I don't understand how they defeat it because they're just running around in circles and then they stop and all of a sudden the thing just like hits this invisible wall and dies. Like I genuinely don't understand, but this gets me to I think my favorite part of the whole episode where a coin drops and Duke picks it up and takes it to an armor smith and buys dog armor.
Yes.
Dog knight's armor.
I think I put in my notes that I think I want Duke and his armor to be the thumbnail for this episode.
I'm kind of with you on it.
It's the least has nothing to do with this episode whatsoever, but or very little to do with it. But it's such a cool visual of Duke wearing this badass armor.
I love it. I also love that it's already pre-made. It's not like he had to make it custom. This blacksmith just like, yeah, I have dog armor. What about it? We don't have dogs in this world that I've seen, but we got this armor right for you, just for you, kid. Oh my God, dude, I fucking love it. I love Duke in his armor. Like some of the stills also like Duke attacking in his armor. There's a really funny one around 15 minutes and 2 seconds where it's just a headshot of Duke.
Yeah, and he
And
winks. Yeah.
yeah, I love it. It's it's so goofy. And Game Boy winks, dude. Okay, hold on. Hold the phone. This is of utmost importance. When Duke winks at 15 minutes and 2 seconds, Game Boy winks in response, and his eye turns into a heart.
It does. He winks with a little heart. Yeah.
This is so important that I had to stop the whole flow of the episode. Game Boy's
Stop
eye
the
is a heart.
presses. Yeah. Yes.
Oh my god! All right, so
Yeah. And then immediately after that, 1506, you see Game Boy being the monitor next to Kevin.
Oh my god! Do you?
Yeah. Right. Immediately the transition right after right after he winks, it's Game Boy next to Kevin in the bed.
The continuity is flawless.
And then cut to the fat cells.
Yeah, so when the first plan fails, when Viroid's first plan of drowning them in stomach acid fails, he sends the fat cells to go after them. And this was such a weird idea. I think it's also borderline problematic because they give the fat cells a black affectation to their voice.
Yes.
Is that the right black
they also have
affectation?
sunglasses. Like, yeah, they've got sunglasses and just unfortunate, like, distinguishing features for their designs.
Yeah. I'm just very surprised. Like it makes me really uncomfortable. Also, they're visually designed. Take out any of even just the racist elements of it, which is it's not necessarily overt, but it's still I'm kind of like, why did you need to do that? Like it really was not necessary. But the other thing that makes me uncomfortable is just their actual like visual design. They're just gross looking, which I understand is the intention, but it's weird how they work where it's just like they shoot fat at the end team out of these cannons. And there's a couple moments where I swear to God, they are shooting fat not from the cannons. It's coming from like the center of their stomach.
Yes.
Which I was like, what's going on here? Is that an animation error? Yeah, I'm watching it right now, like at 15 minutes and like 39 or 38 seconds. It's hard to, 39 or 38 seconds ish. That happens. And I'm like, oh, what's the point of the gun if they're just shooting it out of their torso? But they're not. They actually do shoot out of the gun. But in that one shot, it's just coming right out of the fat cells midsection.
Yeah, because I think the whole point is that they're shooting themselves, because that's why they're like they keep trying to make them miss. Like they spread out and try to make the fat cells miss, and then as they're shooting all over the place, they shrink and they can't shoot anymore. So I think it's kind of a weird, like mixed up idea, probably lost in translation somehow, that like I don't know if it was clarified in the script, like, hey, these fat cells are shooting parts of themselves, so the more they miss, the smaller they get. Like that's supposed to be the trick that they're playing on them, like, hey, let's spread out. And so they're like, over here, and they're all like popping up all over the place, so they end up like firing all over the place, and then they're like, oh, we're all out, and they'd shrunken down because they were growing bigger.
Yeah.
And I think that was supposed to be the plan. I don't know how well it was explained in the script that like they're firing themselves, like their bodies are the ammo for their guns.
Yeah, I mean, well,
so
it does play out that way though. Like, so yeah. So it must have explained at least well enough. But I don't know. The characters of those fat cells are really uncomfortable. Then they also, as they run away, they rhyme, like they're kind of like, it's like the show's version of rapping.
Right.
I don't know. Just kind of like an unnecessarily racist thing to do in the middle of the show.
It's such a strange caricature. Yeah.
Yeah. So once that plan fails, Viroid sends out almost like the inverse version of Kevin, like, which I actually kind of love the designs of it because it's got Kevin's hair all spiked up and he's all blue and everything. And he sends them to attack the end team and for some reason succeeds. And he captures them. They like fall down and they just you don't see it, but they just appear in a cage. Like it feels so contrived. Like they fall into the abyss, and it's like, oh, I guess this is enough. That this is perfect. We don't see where they fall, so it's into a cage.
Yeah, this part was so weird. Everything, like from wait, how did they get captured to the following scene where the gang of evil Kevins bring the real virtual Kevin. It's so confusing. The Tron Kevin to Viroid, and he's like, "Look, I've captured your friends," and they're like, "Yeah, sorry, Kevin, we lost. We're leaving now. Bye." He's like, "Oh man, you guys gave up on me too," and I was like, "Wait, like, where's the twist here? Where's the like, gotcha? We just were trying to, lull you into a false sense of security, and now we actually are turning the tables." But they really do leave.
But then they come back. So it's like, I understand what it's supposed to be. Like it's meant to trick the audience into thinking that they're doing that.
But wink or something. Like, we're just kidding. Yeah, like,
either that or like you can see it coming back where it's like, okay, we really weren't doing that, planning on leaving, but so we have to like figure out a way to sneak back in, right, guys? And then they're like, yeah, and then they sneak back in, because it's weird, because for that to work, for us to not know, like with a wink or any of that other stuff, the whole episode would have had to have been shown from Kevin's perspective. So that way, when they leave and you think they're gone, it feels that much more of a betrayal. But the whole episode isn't from Kevin's perspective. It's honestly maybe from the end team's perspective, and because he's knocked out. So it feels very disjointed in their attempt to do it. I understand what they're trying to do. It just doesn't really work. And they do come back to rescue him, and what ultimately happens, the way they end up defeating him, Simon whips the evil Kevins, and they disappear instantly, and the Viroid for some reason like shoots a weird like laser beam or something, and Lana just holds up a mirror and it kills him instantly. Oh, there was also still some evil Kevins next to him, and then they're not there anymore. Like if you see the shot before he disappears, before Viroid like kills himself,
like a whole line of them. Yeah.
There's a whole line of them, and they're just not there anymore.
I wrote it down because I laughed out loud. Viroid says, "I'm not defeated yet," and fires a shot that Lana deflects back with the mirror, and it kills him. Like, I just thought it was funny. It was immediately, "I'm not defeated yet," zap, and he's defeated. Like, that moment, that timing, I don't think was intended to be comedic, but absolutely was.
I mean, that's pretty much the Captain N mantra, I feel like. I don't think this is supposed to be funny, but it is.
And also before that, they showed that Game Boy and Duke got the elixir, which is also very phallic.
So much penis in this.
So much penis. So much
the Captain N story.
Yeah. Yeah. If for those listening, if you want to go to the 17-minute 53-second mark, you'll see the elixir very mighty on its pedestal there.
That's what we're calling it nowadays.
Mighty.
So in order to administer, so the end team starts growing, they have to get out of Kevin, which would normally be like in a I feel bad saying this, but in a better made show, there would have been some type of tension there. No, they just, they're like, all right, we got to go now. Bye. And they leave. And it cuts back to the end team. They get out, and Duke and Game Boy have the potion, and they have to administer it. And for something that you've never fucking heard in the entire run of the show, I don't understand it. They have to have Captain N's magic mantra in order to administer this magic cure for him. That hasn't been like, I'm not going crazy, right, Dex? That's not in the show prior to this.
No, I was very confused because they come back for him, like you said, and he says the line that ends up coming back here of like, you've always been my video family or something like that, he said to them. But yeah, but I did notice right away when they give him the elixir that Game Boy's screen changes to an alphabet. as if like putting in a high score or putting in a password, and that's what
Huh.
it looks like, a password screen. And so when that popped up, I was like, are they putting in a password? Like, is this like a video game reference, like of putting in a password? And that's the only thing I could think of, is that's what they were going for with that. But it's so awkwardly done that like when it pops up, Dr. Wright's like, oh, this is the part where we need to know his video gaming mantra. Like, what?
What is the magic mantra? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
there
And
was nothing, no breadcrumbs were laid for that.
and they're like, what is it? We've never had to use it before. And Simon, this episode's interesting for me with Simon, because it's the first time in the entire series that he's shown any type of affection for Kevin.
Yeah.
Like he actually was worried about him. And so, they showed a little bit earlier too, he's nervous about Kevin being sick, and he's nervous about bad stuff happening to Kevin. And they what is it, in this, when they're trying to figure out the magic mantra, he goes, well, I know he's always been a fan of you, your highness. Like, almost acknowledging, like, because Kevin didn't really have this whole competition thing that Simon did with trying to woo Princess Lana. But Simon was always really competitive and always really like jealous of Kevin. So the fact that he admitted that in this is kind of impressive for him as a character. And I can't believe we're talking about character development, character build, character growth of Simon fucking
Yeah,
Belmont and
especially for
Captain
that
N,
character.
the man who has tried to borderline not rape, but no, pretty much rape Princess Lana in the past.
This is true.
Yeah. So they put the actual word, his magic mantra, is family. I should put in a clip of Vin Diesel saying family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
All right, there.
Captain N did it first.
Captain N did it first, baby. I can't. Oh my god, I might have to go back and listen to our entire series once it's done and find all of the things that we referenced as to what Captain N did first.
Yes.
I kind of want to do that now. Yeah, and so the episode ends with Kevin waking up. He says, "It's like, I had the weirdest dream that you were all part of my family. At least I think it was a dream," or something like that. And they all just kind of laugh, and the episode ends. And that is the end of season 2. I can't believe it, Dex. We've made it this far. We're at the end of season 2, and it's what a wild ride. Your final thoughts on this episode before we kind of give some closing thoughts on season 2 as a whole.
Yeah, this episode was odd, in the sense that like we said, there wasn't a whole lot of video game references. Like, we didn't take place in a really specific world here. Faxanadu shows up. Congo Land was referenced in the beginning, but the only thing I could think of is that there are some old games that kind of take place, like Abadox. Have you ever heard of Abadox before?
Yes, I actually do know what Abadox is.
I was gonna say that used to advertise on the back of my Archie Digest comics when I was a kid, and I was always
It looks like you're flying through. This is basically like the video game version of this episode.
right, yeah. So like, I guess that was kind of an aesthetic around this time of like, whoa, wouldn't it be gnarly if you were inside of a creature or inside, like, so I guess it has that going for it, but it's none of this is very video gamey, other than like it's a video virus, and so this one feels so strange. I guess it's just like they had to fulfill their quota of their inner space spoof, or Fantastic Voyage spoof kind of thing. Every sitcom needs one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thoughts on this particular episode.
For season 2 as a whole, Dex, what are your thoughts on that? I guess for just to give you a little bit of time to gather your thoughts, I overall really enjoyed this one. I still think season 1 is slightly better now that I've seen all of season 2. I will say I think season 2 has some of the more batshit moments of the overall series. It's weird to say that in Captain N, where I think season 1 is better overall at storytelling, but season 2 has more bizarre, goofy, over the top, memorable moments. It's just that the characters and the storylines are so uninteresting by comparison. But like even looking back at the last couple episodes we've done, Invasion of the Paper Peddlers was a wild episode with Gabe, just the mind controlling ink. Going back one before that with Jala with I Wish I Was a Wombat Man. I love that one. Also, the feud of Xanadu I thought was really fun with the dwarves versus elves. Trouble with Tetris, I think low key is my favorite episode of the season. This one, in terms of its overall ranking for me, is not my favorite, but I think it's like it has some of the more. It's weird. Like I didn't really think it was that good, but it had some of the more. It's one of those ones where it's kind of like the Room of the season 2. It was so bad it was like you couldn't tear your eyes away.
That's a good description. Yeah, I will move on, or I'll get down to mine if that's all right.
By all means.
Yeah, I gotta refresh myself on season 1's episodes, but yeah, I think season 2 takes it for me. I think season 1 has some real classics, and like you said, I think it feels more cohesive, and I don't think season 2 would be as good without it. It's got one of those, it's got the traits of a good sequel, where it picks up where the original leaves off with some nice, callbacks. But yeah, see, there's some real memorable stuff from the first season, but season 2 is how I remember the show as a kid. That zaniness, and as an adult, that zaniness is like, what were they thinking? Whereas as a kid, the zaniness was like, wow, this is so strange and unique. Like, this is really fun. And so many of the designs were really, they really stick out in my mind from season 2. Obviously the addition of Game Boy, I feel like Link shows up a lot more in season 2 as well, which was,
he does,
which would always get me excited as a kid. And you're like, oh, Zelda, oh, like just being a huge Zelda fan. So like, I know him, like, like seeing him show up.
I know him.
I know that guy. Yeah, Zelda, pea hats, like the commercial. But yeah, I would say as far as ranking Germ Wars, I'd put it in the bottom half, but not in a bad way, because like I said, I think season 2's full of good episodes.
Do you think we should do a ranking episode once all 3 seasons are done?
Yeah, we might have to. Do that.
I think we might have to start researching for that now, because otherwise we'd have to rewatch the entire series again. And God help me. I was actually, I did it for season 1. I actually, unfortunately, don't think I'll be able to for season 2. I did a Captain N-a-thon where I watched all of season 1 in a row on Twitch, and just back to back to back the entirety of it. And so I was like, should I do the same here for season 2? But I don't think I will be able to, unfortunately, as I will be away the weekend this episode comes out. Of course, it's already, your boy got this all prepped all beforehand, so we're good. But yeah, so I don't know, man. I'm curious to see what what I'll do for it. But so yeah, I'm kind of bummed that I won't be able to, but who knows, maybe I'll do another Captain N-a-thon in the future. Just I will not do the entire show in one stretch. That 26 episodes for the first 2 seasons, and then like I think it's only like 7 half episodes for the last season or whatever. Yeah, no way. That's way too much time. I think the first season was already long enough. I don't need to torture myself with another season and a half. But I think we should wrap up this episode, Dex. I think this is a good way to end season 2. It's not as big of a finale as season 1 was, but there's a reason for that, listeners. One, Dexter here is in the process of working on a new T-shirt for the Still Loading Captain N series, which it may be done by the time you are hearing this episode. If not, keep an eye out over on the Still Loading merch site. I will include a link in the show notes, which I think I actually always do. You can buy it where you can buy Still Loading merch. You can also get the original t-shirt from season 1, from the season 1 finale over there as well. And all the proceeds go to Dexter and myself, Hungry Podcasters. So it'd be very much appreciated if you check that out. So Dexter is working on a new shirt for this, and another reason why this episode isn't quite as much of a big bam, what bam bam man, I don't know, is because season 3 is very short. Season 3, I guess as a little primer for all you listeners. The company that owns the rights to this don't even have Wild Brain is the company that shares all of this. In fact, if you go to the Wild Brain YouTube channel, there's Wild Brain Superheroes channel. They have a lot of old cartoons, specifically video game cartoons that you may remember. They also have Inspector Gadget too. They have Sonic Underground. They have Sonic the Hedgehog. They have let me see what else here. Super Mario Brothers Super Show. They have the full series of the Legend of Zelda show. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is on here. Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, like Pole Position. There's a Pole Position cartoon that they have 13 episodes on their playlist here. So yeah, while they do not have the full run of Captain N, they still do not have season 3 for some strange reason. There are ways to find season 3 over on YouTube. There's lots of people who have uploaded it, excuse me. And the way that season 3 works is that in season 3, they actually, Dexter, you should bring this up too. Like there's a bit of a changeover in terms of who was making this series, right?
Yeah, they end up switching studios, animation studios, between now and season 3. They definitely were cutting back because the episodes are going to be shorter as well. I think they're only like 10 or 11 minutes because they joined up with the Super Mario World or Super Mario. Yeah, it was
Super Mario World. Yep.
So they end up shortening the episodes. So they go with a cheaper studio, which I believe we'll get to that, but it's going to look that way as well. But yeah, they changed studios after this, so get ready for some interesting visuals coming up.
But a lot of the same writers from season 2, Dorothy Middleton, Matt Uitz, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Dennis O'Flaherty, Calvin Kelly. I don't know if Calvin Kelly did an episode in season 2, but Dorothy, Dennis, and Matt all did. So yeah, I'm excited. There's only 7 episodes in season 3, and like we said, they're only 11 minutes long. So the change in format for season 3 of our Captain N series is going to be, we are covering 2 episodes per episode of the podcast, because otherwise, they're only 11 minutes long. So we're going to cover 2 different ones each episode. So the first one, I guess this episode's August, so September's episode on Captain N will be season 3 episode 1 and 2. October's episode will be season 3 episode 3 and 4. November's episode will be season 3 episode 5 and 6, and to cap it all off, our big finale of the Captain N series will be in December, and that'll be season 3 episode 7, which it kind of works out that we're only covering one, because that gives us a chance to do a big, like, something else. Dexter and I will have to brainstorm to see if there's anything we should do. Who knows? Maybe we'll do our ranking at the end of that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it either way. So Dexter, any final thoughts on anything that we've talked about today? Germ Wars, season 2, season 1, even. Any final thoughts before we go into the plugs?
No, let's do it. This is a blast. I'm sad to see that we have gone. We're over the hill and going quickly downhill to the end here. But yeah, bring it on.
All right, and of course, Dexter, where can the good people find you online?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever Elon is calling the social media platform, Twitter. You can just search for my name and you should be able to find me. DexterMorrill. I'm on there sharing history of video game stuff, my own artwork, my students' artwork, since I teach art as well. And hey, maybe I'll even throw a little preview of the shirt design on there or something as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see. Yeah. So, and as usual for me, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Still Loading Pod on all of them. Also Threads at Still Loading Pod and Blue Sky at Still Loading Pod. Also, you know what? I'm going to take a page out of our friend Jala's notebook, and her podcast is called Jala Chan's Place, and you can find her in places on the internet. So I can't steal her bit because she came up with that, but at the very least, at Still Loading Pod on your social medias. If I'm not out Still Loading Pod on there, then it's not me. So there, that covers everything. If you want to support the show, you can give it a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or whichever podcasting app you use, because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And if the legends are to be believed, it pleases the algorithm gods and helps more people find the show. I don't know if that's true. Once again, I said in the last episode, I'm going to say it again. Don't know if that's true, but I always enjoy seeing them, and I'm always appreciative of them. If you want to support the show monetarily, patreon.com/stillloadingpod. For $1 a month, you'll get all the episodes a few days earlier at a higher bitrate, as well as voting rights to help determine future episodes of the show. The most recent topic that was chosen by my patrons is Epic Mickey. I did a poll of 4 different games of which one I should cover, and Epic Mickey won. So that is, I actually haven't been able to play it for a couple of weeks, but I did start it up and I'm looking forward to covering it. But that's all at the $1 level. At the $4 level, you will get everything I mentioned prior, as well as 2 bonus episodes a month, which are always a lot of fun. Retro magazine reviews and reviews of the Gamer 5 portable from My Arcade, which is of the utmost quality, 220 games on one handheld. It's a good time, let me tell you. So there's that. And then for the $5 level, you get everything I mentioned previously at the 1 and 4 levels. But you'll also get access to Still Bonding, which is my James Bond podcast where me and a bunch of friends bond over 007. The time this one comes out, we will be actually, if I remember correctly, if I'm mathing my dates out correctly, listeners, the most recent episode will have just dropped. For Your Eyes Only would have come out just a few days before this for the patrons. So yeah, check that out if that interests you. Patreon.com/stillloadingpod. And of course, I want to shout out my friends over at the Bit by Bit Foundation, who I'm going to try to change up my spiel for them. I've been saying the same thing for the last couple of years, but the Bit by Bit Foundation is a nonprofit that helps kids in hospitals who are receiving inpatient care be able to play video games to help pass the time and, give them a little bit of brightness in their day when they're having to go through so much. So that is the Bit by Bit Foundation, and you can check them out at the bitbybitfoundation.org, and you can to consider donating. And that will do it for this episode of Still Loading. Dexter, thank you once again for joining me.
A pleasure as always. Thanks, Josh.
And we will think of you the next time we play video games.